What is going on, stream? Welcome to episode 3 of the AmScene podcast. I have a very special guest joining me today. He's actually one of my teammates and a great friend that I've come to know. And he's actually a really insane player. Surprises me every time we play. I think you guys are going to love him. I'm sure we're going to have some great back and forth conversations, and I'm glad to have him on this episode. His name is Supreme, aka Chance. Chance, thank you for joining me in today's episode. Go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
Nice to meet you guys. Never done anything like this, so that's about as far as I can go for introducing myself.
Oh, good, brother. So the whole point of the podcast, Chance, is talking about the AmScene, mainly in Call of Duty esports. But if you don't really want to talk about Call of Duty esports, we don't really have to. So we're mainly just talking, or the whole point is mainly talking about the amateur scene and esports as a whole. So basically, like, I'm gonna kind of get your opinions on how it's changed since esports has kind of started, like your ideas on what you think you could do, or how, like, your ideas on how it could change for the better, and just your overall thoughts on it. So unfortunately, stream, we won't have a dual face cam for this episode because Chance does not have a webcam to use. So,
and I'm ugly.
Nah, brother, I'm sure you're not.
I'm pretty cute.
So Chance, what do you have any kind of like overall thoughts on the AmScene as a whole?
Right now it's kind of in shambles, honestly.
Okay.
Everything's kind of Am I allowed to cuss? Because I might cuss a few times.
No, you're good, brother.
Okay, yeah. In other words, everything's kind of fucked at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Teams don't stick with each other long enough to even learn the game. Everybody leaves after 1L. Everybody has an ego that developed from Black Ops 4 because you could just ego chow everything in the world. And in this game, you actually have to, one, have some kind of like sense of how to play. Two, you can't just go around ego chowing everything because the guns kill way faster.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know how to play a game like this. Like, luckily for me, like, I got really good at games like this back in like Modern Warfare 3. So
Right.
when that happened, like, what I did then, I didn't play competitive. I pub stomped, and I was part of a couple big clans coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's how I got real good at these games like this, because like, you couldn't just go around just chowing everything, because otherwise you're gonna get smoked regardless of the situation.
Right. And it's like you got to learn the game before you like can play it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And COD is more or less a, like, yes, you can just have raw talent and be great at the game. Don't get me wrong, but COD is also more of a mental game, especially with how it's changed throughout the years. So, Chance, I don't know if you have seen any of or either of the past 2 episodes, but one thing we have been talking about, or one thing we always bring up, is like the pros having an inner circle, like, amongst themselves.
Yeah.
It's all the same people, or it's always been the same people for at least like the past, or well, since really competitive Call of Duty has started. And except for like maybe 2 or 3 people that you're seeing now, like with their inner circle that they have like a comfortability with each other, so they're so used to how each other plays, and all they really have to learn about whoever they're playing is how they play in that game specifically, or like how the meta is and how the game is played. Other than that, they know their play styles and they know how they play. So I mean, they have a comfortability with competition, and it's always the same people. Granted, it may be different rosters, but it's always the same people. And I think that's one thing that is like very kind of unfair to an extent, because like AMs like us, we play different people every day. Well, not really every day, but every day that we play different people. We play GBs, we play scrims, and it's not always the same people unless like there's those people that you want to replay and so on and so forth. And I think that's also kind of like a broken thing in the amateur scene. Like we have. So I said this in yesterday's episode. There are definitely more AMs than there are pros. So it's like harder to kind of pick and choose on who, well, like for the pros and org owners and whatnot, it's kind of hard to choose who is good enough to be brought up and make the money that they're making. But how can you really move up if the pros are just continuously playing with the same people and you only see like maybe one or two people brought up into the pro scene every year, you know?
Yeah, that's like, I feel like that's what they tried to do this year, you know, with the way they rolled out the CDL and everything. Like, obviously you have like your pros compete, but you also have the AM scene that everybody can go to and play at, but they don't stream any of that. Nobody gets any recognition other than the pros that are playing. And like, obviously, you know, like you were talking about this inner circle thing that the pros have, and there's also it's in layers. Mm-hmm. So you have like the top pros, and then you have top AMs.
Yep.
And top AMs are in this inner circle thing that, you know, like I'm trying to think of examples like Awakening or Joe, Austin Cruelty, you know, people like that, like they're in that inner circle as well.
Yep.
They're just outside looking in, and then you have the kids or the people that are playing like us who don't have an inner circle. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for people to get out there and not even get brought up, just get recognition for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I've played against pros, like, you know, I played against Silly, I played against Noobs, I played against Austin Cruelty, I played against Joe, I played against a bunch of top amateurs, and there's no recognition whether I beat them or not. Mm-hmm. Absolutely no recognition.
It's funny that you say that, because me and you, we play 2v2s quite frequently whenever we're both on. And I don't remember the guy's name, but I'm sure you will. But we played like a big named YouTuber that you're a big fan of.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he got real big in Modern Warfare 3. He's actually the one that got me playing like into pub. Like you have your casual players and then your pub stompers, and then eventually some pub stompers go to the competitive scene when they're bored with pub stomping, and that's what happened to me. And he's the one who got me into actually being into this competitive side of me, which is, his name is Jay Nasty.
Yep.
Yeah. In Modern Warfare 3, he was ridiculous. Everybody strived so hard to be able to put out any close to the kind of gameplay that he had, and nobody could come close. Like, obviously, there was a couple people that came close, like Insomulus and Exquisite, and a couple of other people, but nobody could come close to him.
Right.
But the difference... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, a lot of these people that you're naming, I've never really heard of, and it just goes to show, like, how much how your name can really get out there. Like, how many people find out who you are and so on and so forth. But go ahead and continue your thoughts, sorry.
Oh, but, like, the difference between now and then, like... You know, going into the not competitive scene, the pub stomping scene, you know, doing the YouTube videos like I did and stuff like that, like, mm-hmm. It was different because everybody wanted to see everyone succeed.
Yeah.
You know, it got to the point where, like I mentioned earlier, that I had joined a couple of the YouTube clans that were out there, and I was in a couple of small ones. I was in Rush Gaming for a long time. They have like 10,000 subscribers now.
Mm-hmm.
But the big one that I joined was Amp Clan, and Amp Clan grew huge in a matter of 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And every like you had to strive to be good, but everybody wanted you to be recognized for what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't nothing for me to go out and play Modern Warfare 3 and drop, fucking 140 kill specialist, which is very hard, by the way,
Yep.
and
It's even hard to
upload it
do
to
that.
YouTube
It's
and
even hard to
tweet
do
it.
that now. To start to cut you
Yeah.
off, especially with like specialists being added on for the third COD in a row. If
Well, these specialists are different than the
what
specialists that we've been used to.
yeah, but what I'm saying like just like specialists in general, like it like granted you can get them quicker with how the perk system is in this game, but you still like and like with how fast paced the game is played, it's still kind of hard to go on those big specialist bonus. But go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But, back then it wasn't nothing for me to go out and do that and then tweet it out and then tweet at other YouTubers that were larger than me, and they would come in, they would retweet it, they would check out the video, drop a like, sometimes even drop a comment, everything like that. And then you could, if you got on their good side, as long as you don't overdo it, tweet at your stream and they'd retweet it. Nowadays, you can't do that. They 9 times out of 10 you just get ignored by the people that are,
Right.
you know,
That you look up to.
yeah, in a sense.
Yeah, no, I get that entirely. I mean, I'm at fault for that. Like, I do it constantly, and still, like, granted, everyone streams Call of Duty now, um, but still, it's like, do I have the best stream? No. Do I get viewers here and there? Is it always consistent as much as I would like it to be? No. Now, still, like, this kind of goes back to a point that I'm gonna bring up later on, or, um, or actually, I guess I can bring it up now since we're already talking about it. Do you think that pros or people that have bigger names in the scene should be like kind of sharing the limelight a little bit, like given a chance for these people that look up to them and tweet at them and all that, to kind of like get their name out there, or do you think like, do you think it's fair for them to like to kind of be selfish, in a sense, to just keep the following that they have and not share it, like, because you know how people will say like, oh, I want people to grow, I want people to get bigger on this, that, and grow their following, but they don't do anything to help, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
very, very select people do that. Like, so,
There's
so do you think, back to the main question, that bigger name peoples and pro players and whatnot should be kind of sharing the limelight and going more out of their way to help people like us get better recognition and kind of move up?
100% yes. A lot of the, I've watched a lot of the videos on, the players that are playing now that are pro, and like obviously there's some new names. Illy finally got brought up because he turned 18. Simp came up last year.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like, there's not many new faces in the Call of Duty pro scene.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that have been playing, like Scump has been playing since Modern Warfare 3. Silly has been playing since Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
I think Scump has actually been playing since MW2.
Competitively Modern Warfare 3.
Well, I mean,
Is
so
when he really
so
got
more or
into
less
it.
so more or less on stream, because I've seen him talk like about competing on MW2 and stuff like that, and he does, or he did like throw the two like throwback MW2 tournaments with like his old MW2 roster that people our age wouldn't even know, but
Yeah.
anyway, so basically like you just know of him from MW3, but go ahead and continue.
But like there's a sense, like there comes a point where like when everybody knows your name,
Mm-hmm.
it's a wonderful thing. But at the same time, what are you like? What exactly are you doing to help other people to get up and get better?
Yeah, and it's an abuse of power.
Like like for instance, I play like that's another thing. Like you can't ever play any kind of like online gaming tournament for money or anything without running into people that have $80,000 earned.
Yeah, and me and you actually
And like
kind of
yeah,
know
and
that firsthand. We played
when
a
we
two v
played
two
Dylan's
tourney.
Vacay,
Yeah.
and like that's a sense where it's like obviously like you're gonna have to play kids that have once a crazy amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just the gamble you take. But when it comes down to it, like they pay kids to find spots and get better for them. Like they don't even go out and find like when the game first dropped, my old team that I had, we didn't play any kind of competitive match. We spent 3 days going through all the maps, working out search and destroy strats and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys pay kids to just go and do that for them.
Yep.
And that's just like that takes away like the part of like building a team, honestly.
Yeah. Um. And to kind of add on to like playing people that have like money like or high earnings and stuff like that, like when you go and play these people, like they have higher skill clearly because they've won like thousands of dollars more than you, but like you could also just be having a bad game, and then like if you lose to these type of players, like their egos take over, and they don't think that you had a bad game. They just automatically assume that you are
Assume that you're
terrible.
shit.
That yeah, they assume that you're terrible at the game, and they look down upon you as like, okay, this guy's never going anywhere. Well, how do you know? Like you've played me one time, I played against you one time, and just because you are better than me doesn't mean that I'm not going anywhere. That's another unfairity in the competitive scene.
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. Because like, like I had the chance with one of the kids I used to play with. Me and him were in a tournament one night, and I had the chance to play against Silly and Noobs,
Yeah.
and we got smoked. I think we lost like 6-2
Mm-hmm.
that night, and I 1v2'd both of them
Mm-hmm.
on one of the rounds, and I think I ended the game going like 7-9 or something like that, which isn't bad against kids that are obviously like one of them's literally signed to a contract played today, but immediately there was no recognitions for good shots or anything like that or anything. It was literally just fucking like all these, because I was watching his stream,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Oh, these kids are absolute shit."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I get like calling somebody. I get calling somebody out when you take a shit on them and like mid gunfight or something like that. But like when you play against kids that obviously you look on the record, there's no earnings earned or anything like that, or it's a low rank or a high rank. Well, I guess low rank for the game or whatever, and you immediately automatically assume that like these kids are absolute fucking trash cans.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfair. You don't even give them a chance to. You don't even send them any recognition, whether you win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
You just immediately like. There's no good game. There's no GGs. Nothing like that. It's literally just like, oh, you guys are fucking trash, and then they
Yeah.
leave the game.
Like, oh hey, you guys probably had a bad game, but good stuff. Keep it up,
Yeah. Or even just small shit like good shots.
Yeah.
Like that can go that can go a long way when
Mhm.
you're playing against like top AMs and pro players, and you do some nasty shit and they're like, oh shit, good shots.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up because in yesterday's episode we talked about the toxicity of the AM scene and stuff like that, and how kind of bad it's gotten over the years. Like, people will like not like, I mean, we kind of just basically said all this, but people will not give you the I'm trying to think of the word here. Like, they will not like praise
Recognition?
you. No, not recognition, but they will not praise you for possibly doing something worthy of moving up, or like they just want to talk shit and not like, okay, these guys could be pretty good one day. Like, I wouldn't mind playing them again. No, you beat them one time, you're like, no, I don't want to play these kids ever again. They're terrible. Like, you can't just assume that. Like, a lot of assumptions are made against or made when people play other people, and it just throws the AM scene into a further downward spiral, and it like continues to give it a bad name.
Yeah. No, I agree, because it's like I said earlier, like the competitive amateur scene is absolutely in shambles at the moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reason why is because kids don't stick together, and kids don't stick together because they can't take an L because they develop this huge ego for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I have a little bit of an ego.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a little bit of ego. You have to have an ego in this game.
No, you only have an ego when you play on Petrograd S&D.
Fuck that. But, you know, you can't go...
Automatic 10 kills.
You can't you just can't, like, have an ego to the point where it's just toxic.
Yeah.
Like, I have, you know, like, if I'm playing Respawn and I shit on some kids pretty bad, like, I might be like, oh, like, damn, you guys are shit. But, like, at the end of it, like, it's all fucking GGs. It's all good games. It's all
like,
fun in games.
It's also kind of like different in-game situations, because like you can tell when people are playing bad and whatever else, and you can kind of get like a mental image in your head, like, okay, these guys are actually like pretty bad at the game, like they should probably not play anymore. Now, like, that's a totally different scenario. That's just like, other than doing what we like, people doing what we said, like just assuming that they're bad and whatever else. Like, even if you do get that mental image, then like people like us, we wouldn't really say it. Like, we would just say it amongst ourselves. Like, we wouldn't really call them out on it unless it's like a devastating scoreline, or we're like really dominating the other team. But it's also kind of like it's like a love-hate thing. Like, not to really kind of put it into those type of words, but
yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and there's been multiple times, like, I've played some scrims and stuff like that against kids that weren't there all the way yet, and like, you know, we trash on them pretty bad, and then they're like, after the scrim, they're like, hey, like, do you have any kind of like tips or anything like that?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm like, yeah, like, you know, like, I'll help them out a little bit. I'm not gonna share, you know, strats or anything, but I'm gonna help them out on how to just better their game. But you don't find that against top amateur teams or pro teams. Like, if our team right now, if it were full and we go out and scrim against Atlanta FaZe,
mm-hmm.
we'll get fucking smoked, like probably 250 to nothing. And I guarantee you there will be absolutely none of the, you know, oh, like, good shots or anything like that. It's going to be, that was a complete waste of time. You guys weren't competitive at all.
Right. Like, to kind of sum up everything we just said in like one whole kind of phrase, is like, in the AM scene, you get what you give. If you give toxicity, you're gonna get toxicity. If you give kindness, you're gonna get kindness. But that's just how kind of life works too. You give what you get. But back to kind of what you said about teams not working out because like they don't know how to take a loss and stuff like that. One thing we talked about in the past 2 episodes, kind of in that topic, was like when teams go and play, they don't want to give the team a chance to work out because like say for me, new example, we go and play. Well, okay, so say this is a better example. So you're going to a LAN tomorrow. So say like one of the teammates that you're playing with has probably, like, he's good online, he's been performing online, but he goes and plays on LAN and has probably the worst performance of his lifetime. Like, people will drop that type of player after one time and be like, okay, you're not going to work out. You can't team with us. You're gone. See you later. Instead of like, oh, you probably just had a bad event, bro. Like, just shake it off. What's whatever. We'll work on our mistakes and fix it. Like, that type of thing does not exist in our world.
Yeah, it's kind of like you
in our world of amateurs, and it's unfortunate because like
yeah,
it kind of discredits that player. It discredits his mindset and confidence of like, I don't know what happened. Like I play well online. Like maybe you kind of start to think reverse on yourself and it's like, bro, you team with someone to go to this event for a reason because you like how they play and stuff like that, and then you want to go ahead and turn around and kind of be a toxic jerk because of one event. Like you just can't be like that, bro.
Yeah, there's, like excuse me, I'm yawning.
You're good.
One of the kids that I'm actually going to play with, he went to a LAN event in January that I was supposed to go to, and I wasn't able to. And it was not a big LAN event. There was 4 teams, and he placed 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And
how does a LAN have 4 teams in it, bro?
It was unannounced until a week, so there wasn't a lot of time to.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense. I was like, wait, how does a LAN just have 4 teams competing in it, bro? Like, it makes no sense. Like, either way, one team is getting top 3.
Yeah, and he even tweeted it out and said top 3, and I was just like, oh, great. And I stopped playing with him for a while because he developed this ego from playing one LAN and finishing top 3 out of 4 teams.
Right.
And he immediately got humbled real quick when I guess something happened with his team and he tried out for other teams and found out that he had an ego for absolutely nothing because he wasn't exactly there yet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like the whole ego thing like transfers over into LAN. Like you have to, like I said earlier, you have to have an ego playing Call of Duty. You have to have some kind of ego playing Call of Duty.
Well, you can't really say an ego. You got to have confidence.
Confidence, yeah, and a little bit of an ego, yeah, but not like an ego to the point where like it's confidence, not an ego to the point where it's just toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And you like, I'm trying to think of my words here.
Mm-hmm.
You have to transfer that over into your LAN, like into your LAN experience. Like I'll be the first to say, like right now, like tomorrow is my first LAN experience that I'll have.
Mm-hmm.
And I am somewhat kind of worried that I won't perform to what I know I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I can't self-destruct on myself like that. And trust me, I am a master of self-destruction.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be like that because it's just like you have to go in there with this ego persona that you just like you're going in and you're going to dominate. And if you get shit on, you get shit on, but at the end of the day, you gave it your all that you could.
Yeah. So
and a lot of go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
And I was adding on to that. You just have to, like your team, especially your team lead, has to realize that like you gave it what you could, even if it was your first LAN or 100th LAN. If you had a bad LAN, like you gave it all you could. But at the end of the day, it's a team thing, not just a singular thing that everybody could have done better.
So,
and if you get kicked off the team because of that, then like you're just on the wrong team because obviously there's no team there. It's literally just everybody having an ego and can't take an L.
Yeah, and then like if you kind of start to attack like one person for having a bad performance, your other teammates will gang up on them because they don't want to like step up and be like, dude, just like calm down. They just want to kind of like not be involved, and they just want to like let shit go. because who knows, they might actually like that one person, but because one person is calling out someone else, they don't want to like have drama with the main people. Um, or with like the main set, and like, bro, if you feel differently about someone you're teaming with, even though someone is talking shit on them, you should definitely step up and say something. Be like, dude, relax, calm down. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's like our first event or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and like if it gets to the point where like it is the same person over and over again, like before you make the call to just immediately kick them from the team, like the whole team needs and explain like
Hold
what's
on, kind
going
of
through
repeat
their.
what you said there. Like, you cut out a little bit.
Oh, what I was saying was I was just saying that if it comes down to it and it is the same person over and over again that's costing, rather than immediately going to kick them, try to sit down and talk to the whole team, including the person that's not doing too well. See what's going through their mind. You know, where is their mind at? Like if it's just like they're just in a funk, or if they're just not feeling the team chemistry, or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, like talk to them before you just go around with your other three teammates and like, yeah, like this kid's cheeks, like let's just fucking toss him to the trash.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the same person constantly making mistakes and constantly doing or having a bad performance, like that's something totally different where you can be like, okay, yeah, maybe it's time to like to get rid of this dude and let him go. But if it's like a one-time thing, I like you can't just really like jump to conclusions. Um, Now I don't know, like we haven't really teamed together for too long, but personally, I'm the type of person that like, yes, I hate losing and I hate seeing stupid mistakes happen, especially like if you're practicing on stuff like what not to do, and then when you go and try to like play and then you see that dumb stuff happen, like that you said like, okay, let's not do this, but you see it happen anyway and it can easily cost you a map. Like, I'm the type of person that does kind of get easily mad about that type of stuff, because it's like, bro, if we're talking about what not to do and going over what not to do and saying like this can cost this, that, and the other, and and I see it happen, like I will kind of lash out and like and kind of just be upset about it. Like, granted, I will like apologize for it later, but it's like in the moment I just get so frustrated by seeing dumb stuff happen that can easily cost, because if it shouldn't happen, then why did it happen, you know? Um, do you have any more like thoughts on that kind of whole thing of teams working out?
Um, Not really. I mean, like it's honestly just the same bullshit over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has a bad game, or it's one of two things when a team breaks up. It's never the third because nobody's grown enough to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one kid isn't doing too good, so the other three.
They single out one person,
four,
and
the other four kick them.
Yeah.
Or it's one person being toxic.
Right.
And no one's scared to stand up to him, so nothing ever changes, and then everybody finally has enough, and they all.
Yeah. So one thing we did talk about on the past, or another thing we talked about on the past two episodes, was like at major events, like for open bracket, do you think that there should be more like available streams for like the main matches that are popping off, for AMs to kind of get noticed and stuff like that? Because like yes, they will show some matches on stream, but I'm saying like a set stream for those matches, like
yeah, I 100% agree that there should be a set like a obviously they're streaming the CDL,
not like all
right
the matches
now,
but like the main ones that like have
like top amateurs that are playing, like the top teams that are playing, like top 24 teams.
No, saying like, or I mean like just like the main ones that have like the most people surrounded by them and like the more interesting matches.
See, I have a different point of view on that. I think there should be, obviously they have the pro stream. I think there should be an amateur stream.
Yep.
And then I also think the kids that are coming up that don't an amateur stream that's for like the top 24 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think that there needs to be like allow like the not so high ranked teams to be able to come in and stream their own shit.
Mm-hmm. Um, so I don't know if you, or I don't know if I ever told you this before, but I went to CW Atlanta, or I went to that event for World War II, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, granted, you couldn't really be around some of um, the open bracket matches, but some of the open bracket matches, because obviously, like, it was my first ever LAN event going, even just like being a spectator, but like even while the mainstream matches are going on and being like played throughout um the whole venue, like you can still hear some of the open bracket matches. Like you can still hear kids screaming and popping off, and like some of those matches tend to be more interesting than the actual mainstream matches that are being played.
Yeah, and I've definitely picked that up with and on this game especially because obviously like when you think of the best teams playing right now, you literally think of Huntsman and you think of Atlanta FaZe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Royal Ravens pop off sometimes. Minnesota Rocker isn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas isn't terrible except for Respawn.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like you don't hear anything about any other team.
Right.
You know, you don't hear anything about Seattle Surge or Paris Legion or Toronto. Even though Toronto might be getting more. They took.
I definitely think
the
Toronto's
Huntsman to round 5.
I definitely think Toronto's progressing. Like this is like their first LAN with their new roster. Granted, they only changed Bance, or they only changed one person, but like they played better this event than their first one.
Yeah,
and that just shows like they have a lot of room for improvement. Don't get me wrong, but
yep.
Like
going into what I was trying to say was, other than that, like if any of these not so good teams are playing against the better teams,
mm-hmm.
everybody already knows the outcome. Like everybody already knows that they're probably gonna get smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, there will be the rare few that surprise, like today with Toronto Ultra and the Chicago Huntsman. But other than that, like you expect what's gonna happen, and it happens. Mm-hmm. So why not be able to have an amateur scene stream, so that way we can watch something else that will more than likely be way more competitive.
Yeah, I definitely kind of agree with you on that because like it's funny, especially with the Call of Duty League saying like we have the path to pro, but you guys might have the path to pro and are doing these open bracket tournaments, but you're not shedding much limelight on it. Like yeah, you're kind of like letting AIMS kind of put their foot in the door, but you're also kind of standing on the other side of the door, keeping it closed by not showing the matches on stream. Like, granted, the CDL events are mainly for the pros, but how can you kind of talk about having a path to pro, and it's like one of your main things that the CDL is focused on, but you're not putting like some of your focus in, like you're not putting focus on it.
And that's something I actually miss about the CWL.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they have the open bracket play, and if you place in like top 16 of the open bracket play, you get to play in the big boy
in pool play.
With
yeah,
the big boys.
This is like that's one thing we talked about in yesterday's episode. I was actually getting ready to kind of bring that up to you. Go ahead.
What?
Like I was saying, like how, so you were saying like how certain teams, if they got far enough in open bracket, they would go into pool play.
Oh yeah.
So
they would, they would get a chance to play in the pool play with the big, E United, Optic, FaZe, all of them, and it's like they were streamed. They got recognition for who was playing.
Mm-hmm.
This though, like there is no open bracket play to play against the bigger kids. Like obviously it builds up into, you know,
The possibility of
the
you getting moved up into a pro team, but
yeah, it's slim to none. Slim to none in this
Yep.
in the way they're doing CDL.
mm-hmm.
There is no recognition for smaller teams,
and
and
that's
it's
one thing why I
gonna
like.
cost. It's honestly gonna cost, and it's gonna send a lot of people that are trying to make it pro and playing Call of Duty to other games. That's gonna be easier.
Yeah, that's one thing like why I was like really against franchising, because it's like, yes, you're putting more money into it to kind of make it a bigger esport, but
They could have done it. They could have done it a lot different, if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah.
they could have.
they basically just said, okay, fuck everyone else, we're gonna do it our way. This is like, and like it was so much more fun to watch, like multiple teams, not just like 8 pro teams competing, like for 3 days a weekend instead of 2, or like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was more fun like clicking on stream or going to an event, watching or being there for that 3-day weekend. Even like,
Yeah.
because there's more chances of an upset team coming up through the brackets and beating the main pro teams that are like top 3 and top 4. But now you don't have that because it's so much more limited and condensed.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like the competitive Call of Duty scene and this Call of Duty aren't the best combination at all.
Yeah.
Because you have the bullshit with the CDL, which
Mhm.
it literally sums down to is they are playing favorites to the
Mhm.
people who had the money to franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the opposite side, you have the actual game that this game could have been probably one of the best Call of Duties ever made.
But it wasn't because the developers wanted to go ahead and say, no, we're not going to really focus on competitive. We're making this more
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
casual player. But
Exactly.
multiplayer and is the main selling point of Call of Duty, and it has been for years. And the competitive scene is another thing that drives those sales, because like how many people are mainly going out to buy Call of Duty just to compete?
Yeah,
Hundreds,
and that's
thousands, like
that's
hundred
the thing.
thousands.
It's like
Your main sales of a game are people that want to go pro. Like, granted, so I would say a good 60% of your game sales is the casual player. Don't get me wrong, but that other 40% is people trying to compete and be competitive players, and they're the ones that mainly stick out the game or that play the game more than anybody else.
And like I do have to say that I don't think it's like back in like Modern Warfare 3 and like Black Ops 2, all of that, like it probably was like 60-40 casual to competitive, but like with the way that competitive is blown up since World War II,
It's more like 80-20.
no, it's more competitive than there's more competitive players than there is casual.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's more like a.
I wouldn't put it at 80-20, but I'd put it at like
Well, I was saying like 80-20
70-30
for
maybe,
80-20
or flip flop
for
60-40. 60% wanting to be competitive, and then the
Yeah,
other
I was
40%
saying like 80-20
trying...
casual. I thought you were going the route of like with how like this game is, like people don't really want to play competitively because of how like inconsistent it can be. I thought you were going that route, but
Oh yeah, no. I was just talking in Call of Duty in general. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's probably not a lot of competitive Call of Duty players that have completely quit, that were banking on this game that were going to be good, and they either completely quit competitive Call of Duty, or now they just play S&D and play for money.
hmm So, another thing that we've brought up in the past 2 episodes is, like, do you think that pros, like the main ones that have been competing since like COD 4 and like the older ones, do you think that they should be looking, like, granted they're under contract for whatever, like for however long, and they keep getting put under contract. But like, how much time do you think that those players have left? Like, how old is Clayster? Like 27, 28, and he's still playing. Like, how much longer do you think he's going to be playing? Like, he said it multiple times. He's like, dude, I don't know how much longer I got. I'm like, it's like I'm getting up there. I don't know how much longer I can be doing this. Like, do you think that those type of players should be looking for, not to put it all in one word, their replacements, but looking for their replacements?
I think to an extent, yeah. Like, obviously, like, playing competitive Call of Duty is nothing like playing in the Major League Baseball or anything like that. Like,
yeah, because there's like no
practically,
draft, and people
they're
like in pro sports players like baseball, football, basketball, they get drafted. All they have to do is, like, if they have the skill, they play high school, college, and then they get drafted. Or if they don't even get drafted, they just get brought up from college without even finishing college. And then they have a set contract for an X amount of years. And then they could also...
No, I wasn't going with that route. I was going in, like, if you playing like a competitive sport, like, your body's gonna have wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
But this, on the other hand, like, you could technically do this if you really wanted to play competitive Call of Duty for 20 fucking years, then you could technically do it. Granted, I wouldn't recommend it. I want to be able to live my life and, you know, whatever. Like, right now, like, we're all young, and honestly, Call of Duty keeps me out of fucking going and doing dumb shit.
Right.
So I would much rather sit here and grind and try to get some kind of recognition of, like, you know, maybe 15 years from now that competitive Call of Duty is absolutely huge, that I could just, like, people know me.
Yeah.
But the people that are still playing, like Silly and Clayster and all of them that have been playing for 12, 15 years, Scump even, like,
well, Scump's not even that old, though. He's like a few years younger than them, so I feel like he's still got like a decent amount of years left.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, like, you've been playing for so long, like, how long do you think, like, personally, do they think that they can keep this up?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to bash or roast or anything like that.
I'm not either. Like, it's an idea. It's an idealism of, like, you've been doing it like longer than majority of the pros that have already retired, and you're still going. It's like, really, how longer can it last for you? And, like, because these guys are playing for so long, it doesn't give him a chance to move up as easy, and it sucks. Like,
yeah, and
it's like a greed aspect, like, because they're content with the money that they're making. Granted, they need to make a living. Don't get me, like, props to them for doing that. But you see, have a big enough.
If they still wanted to game and make a living, they could stream, because they have such a monster following that they can easily, like, I know, like,
that's exactly
like,
what I was going to say. Like,
and all of them,
they have such a high following. They don't need to keep competing.
They make close to some people make $10,000 a month streaming from subs alone.
Some streamers make like that in a day just from one stream.
Exactly. Like, there's a chance, like, if you wanted to game for the rest of your life, like Dr. Disrespect, that kid's got a family. He's old as shit.
Yeah.
And he makes more streaming than I make in a whole year.
No, he makes more in one day than you probably make in your entire lifetime.
I don't think it would be that close, but
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I bet he makes every bit of, you know, 10, 15,000.
Hold on, like, you cut out there. You said he makes about 10,000, and then you cut out
$10,000 to $15,000 easily a month, and that's just subs. That's not people gifting money. That's not people doing anything but just watching him stream.
Yeah, and it's like, if you had, like, Courage is also a prime example of that. Like, yes, he could have stayed competing or stayed casting and making that type of money and making a living for himself, but he's like, I don't need to. I can do this from streaming. Like, I have other options that are available. Like, I think that's one thing that pros are stuck in their mindset is of, like, yes, they stream, yes, they kind of, yes, they like have a following and they make money from it, but I like, granted, competitive is their, or competitive Call of Duty is like their thing, their main focus, their main priority, but I feel like if they were to do it more consistently, because a lot of pros don't stream every day, and whatnot, but if they were to do it more consistently, they would kind of like possibly see like, okay, maybe I can start to call it quits, but they don't do that.
Like obviously there's the young guns that came in like Simp, you know, all of them that have only been competing for like actually been competing for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're like focused, but if I'm Clayster or if I'm Silly or something like that, like in my head, like I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I'm playing competitive Call of Duty for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's not something I'm gonna do.
Right.
Okay, I'm not gonna stay cooped up in my room playing. Like, granted, it's the kind of money, but you know, like, put the money back. Think about a savings plan. Think about retirement, so that way you can fucking like playing this and how big it is and how much money they make. They can retire when they're
20,
fucking 30.
sooner than that even.
Yeah,
Because
some of them that just make stupid money like that.
like,
And
there's
no need.
Most
like,
players' salaries, like Scump, like the real higher name ones that have the most popular and biggest followings, they make like their salaries. I don't know how they get paid. I think they get paid monthly. I don't know how it works. But their salaries, since salaries are a thing in competitive Call of Duty now, but their salaries are as much as like close to a 400,000. Well, if not more than that, but they're close enough to like a $400,000 house. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, if I had that coming to me, I could retire. Like, I would want to retire it, or just not do anything at 25 and be content with the rest of my life. You know?
yeah. Like, I just looked this up right now, and it says that the top earner that has been playing competitive Call of Duty is Scump, and his earnings are close to 1.5 million. I'm sorry.
You cut out at 1.5 million.
Scump's earnings are about 1.5 million dollars.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you don't need you. Granted, that's what everybody's trying to do, is go out there and
That's a
make
decent
more money.
house. Like,
That's a decent house, bro. That's
a decent house.
Me retiring.
Paid off.
You could literally pay. You could buy a brand new car, buy a brand new house, stick the rest in a bank account, and live off the interest for the rest of your life for $1 million.
Like, you can pay off. You can buy it. Go out, buy a house, pay like full payment, and a car, and whatnot. Like, that's a lottery winning right there.
Exactly.
Like
Like
that is
like I said, like that is me. That is me right now, paying off my car, paying off all of my debt, student debt, or anything like that. Buying a brand new car, buying a brand new house where I want to live, sticking the rest in my bank account, and living off the interest for the rest of my life. Because the interest on about a $1.5 million on a 10% interest rate would still be close to $100,000 or $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. Like,
if you can't live off of 10 grand a month, I don't know what you're doing wrong.
That is like
doing something wrong.
$1.5 million. Like, that type of money, that is a lottery winning that people go out and spend like hundreds of dollars on almost every week, just for a slim chance to win that money. It's crazy. So I have a few points written down. We've kind of talked about most of them already, but I have a few points written down that I would love to get your opinions on. One of them is, do you think that amateur players should be, like, do you think it's fair for most amateur players that are basically no-name people, and they want to go play at a LAN? Again, I'll use you as an example. So say like an org hits you up and be like, oh, hey, will you represent us and whatever else, like, and they can't give you full funding for it, or they don't extend that hand to you. Do you think it would be fair if you were to pay part of your way to to go and play at that event?
Um, I think it's fair to an extent. You know, like obviously, like if you're unknown and everything like that, but you've been grinding in an org
You said an org what?
and an org recognizes you,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Hey, we want to represent you when you go to this land, but we're gonna only offer partial, you know, partial funding at the moment." I think that's fair because you like why what org would just be like, "Hey, like
Like
I
that.
know you're unknown, but I'm gonna completely pay for everything for you to go out there without you know even knowing that they're gonna go out there and win this for this org."
Right, and what we mean by orgs, we mean like small orgs that like are trying to get somewhere. Um, like I also think I think it's like completely fair. Like I like there have been events in local lands that that I would have loved to have gone to, but I like don't get me wrong, would full funding be great, but yeah, like sure, but you don't know if that so-called org that you are going to represent or that you want to try to go represent is actually going to fulfill that promise of full funding. Like I'd rather have the security of paying most of it like myself. That way, I know I can go and compete. If an org were to back out last second, be like, "Oh, hey, we can't pay for you guys, so I don't like you got to figure something out." Like you can't bank on that. Like, or at least I'm the type of person that doesn't do that. I'd rather make sure I could go to that event because if I can't afford it and I don't see like that full or that funding coming to me like to be able to go, then you shouldn't be going. You know.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, you know, that's another thing that that's in my opinion that's why orgs probably offer partial funding in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Like I think that's a completely fair thing. Like hey, we'll do this for you. Like we'll give you guys jerseys or something. But you would
You
have
know,
like
like if I'm going to a land
that's what.
that's far away, and an org hits me up and they're like, "Hey, like we want to partially fund you and represent you at this land. We'll pay." I think if an org is serious about it, they need to do one of two things: pay your way there, or pay your housing while you're there. Both, unless you have proven yourself to do that.
See, I kind of disagree with you on that. I like the only thing I would really like the one thing that I'm like okay with in that aspect is like if an org were to just like pay for pay for the team pass. Like okay, you at least paid for the team pass. I will get myself there to be able to play for you. Like that is like that's a give and take that is definitely fair. Now, if they want to offer more, then you should make sure that you offer more or that you get that offer instead of like just taking their word for it. Like you make sure that stuff comes your way. Otherwise, you can't trust what people are gonna like what people say that type of stuff to you. You can't like it's not a guarantee that it's gonna happen.
Exactly, and like I have personal experience with that. With my old org that I was playing with, we were all supposed to go to Atlanta, and the Atlanta event, the AGN event, got moved to Charlotte, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the org owner was talking about how he was going to pay for to be there,
Mm-hmm.
to go anyways, like partial funding. And it didn't happen. He literally went AWOL.
Right.
For months.
Mm-hmm. And a lot
and
of
then came back and tried to tell us, pay for us full funding, everything to go to Los Angeles and play this year.
Like,
and I was just like, there's no fucking way you just disappear for 3 months and then come back and be like, oh hey, all is good.
And
like
most,
no, that's not at all what.
Most low tier orgs or org owners are exactly like that type of person. Like, they're shady. You don't know who they are, and whatever else. And like unless you see like proof, like they like send you screenshots of like, oh hey, this is paid for, you're done and good to go. Like those are the type of orgs and people that I look for to go and play under, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh hey, like I'm gonna do this, you don't hear from him and whatnot, and then he like tries to come back at you like, oh hey, sorry about what happened, like whatever, this, that, and the other, but if you I'll pay for this if you do this and that and the other. Like, no, sorry, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I don't know if it, like I said, in my point of view.
Your point of view, what?
In my point of view, if an org comes to me and they're like, hey, we want to represent you at this LAN, you either need to do one or two things: pay my way there with proof, or pay for my housing for 3 days while I'm there with proof. And if you're not gonna send me the proof, I'm not going.
Right.
Unless I can afford it myself.
See, like, I'm kind of like, I don't really go for that type of like, okay, pay for my hotel, just because, like, fortunately, like, my dad is a Marriott Rewards like member, and he like gets Marriott points and basically can get free rooms. So I'll ask him like, oh hey, because he also travels for work. So like when he goes and stays at those hotels when he travels, he gets points to like for those hotels. So like I'll ask him like, hey, do you mind using your points to get me a room, like for this X amount of time, and he'll do it. So I don't necessarily need to go, like I don't necessarily go and ask for hotels and stuff like that, because I don't need that, you know. Like, that's one thing.
And
that's one thing.
That's like your personal thing though. Like,
right.
A lot of people don't have that.
Right.
Like I would probably rather them an org to pay for my room than for me to pay my way, or for them to pay my way, unless it's really far and then they can fly me, and then I'll pay for the room.
Right.
It's a vice versa thing. Now, you know, but if it's something like 6 hours away, I can drive 6 hours to go. Like, that's not a big problem.
Yeah, like ETG, where they hold that event, that's only 4 hours away from me. That's an easy drive. That's like, you know, but so back to my thing, like with hotels, like granted, yes, I have a personal thing, but so say like me, you, our other teammate, and whenever we find two more, like say we go and compete at an event or at a LAN, like I would ask my dad to get a room with at least like 2 beds and whatever else, like and like a couch. Like that's enough for like a 3-day weekend. Like we don't need multiple rooms, because like some people sleep in and some people like don't set alarms and whatever else. So say like we were all kind of like in one room, not like butt fucking each other and whatever else, like we can, like I'm sure we could be mature enough to like have 2 people share a bed, like for like the 8 hours that we'd be sleeping before we wake up and go play for the next day. And most events are even just like a 1-day thing. But like I'm sure like we could be mature enough to take care of that or to do that. But like if we were all in one room, like we could just wake each other up instead of like going to the other room and like the door being locked, can't get in, and you can't wake that person up, and then you gotta like wait on them to kind of get their ass in gear to wake up. You see my point with that? Yeah. Like that's something like that I would extend to whoever I'm teaming with at that time. Like, hey, like yes, I have this personal thing with hotels and kind of housing arrangements. Like, are you guys cool with this? Like, do you guys think we could be mature enough to do this? And most people are. Like, we're all adults. Like, we don't, like, you know? Yeah. But that's like something that I would offer, like, to whoever I'm teaming with, to be like, hey guys, we don't need to worry about a hotel. I got it. It's fine. Like, is that something like that you would be cool with?
I mean, I don't give a shit, honestly.
Right. Because, like, you're going to compete, like, my mindset is, like, you're going to compete at a tournament together. You're not going to, be like, oh, dude, I'm not gay. I'm not doing that. Like, bro, like, come on, be more mature about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're kind of off topic at the moment.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, but okay. So let's get off this
I'm
tangent.
just, yeah.
Let's get off this tangent then. Um. So with the whole, I mean, I don't really think we were off topic with that because like we were talking about like what would be paid for this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I know, but it turned into a personal thing.
Well, no, I'm saying like I felt like that was like a fair tangent to go off on. Anyway, kind of circling back. Now, this topic kind of wraps in with the one we just talked about. Now, do you think that orgs should be taking such high percentages of prize money? Like most orgs, if everything works out with them paying for what they pay for, this, that, and the other, do you think that they should be taking like such high percentages, like 15-20% of your prize money? Because most local events aren't for that much money.
Yeah, if it's a fully funded org that's paying for everything for you to go, then I would agree that take 15-20% of the prize claim. But if it's a partly funded org, or even an org that isn't funded, you're just under and they try to do that, I don't agree with that 100% because we had to pay for everything to go. So why should they take, I would be okay with them taking 5% of everything if my team were to win. But if you're not paying for anything for me to go, and I have to pay for the team, if we have to pay for the team pass, we have to pay for room, we have to pay for our way there. Everybody's looking at spending close to $500, sometimes even more, depending on how far it is.
Mm-hmm. Now,
why should they take 20% why should they take $2,000, or I guess, why should they take 20% of a $5,000 pool?
Okay, so when I brought this topic up yesterday, or in yesterday's episode, I used like $5,000 as a kind of general prize pool. So let me throw these numbers into the mix because I did the math yesterday. So say like our team, mine and yours, we go and compete at an event for 5K, right?
Yeah.
Now say that our org was gonna be like, okay, we want 15% of this back. So 15% of 5,000. Give me a second here.
What, like like $550?
I hit the wrong button again.
Yeah, $750.
Yeah, it's $750. That's what I thought it was. For remembering correctly. So, $750 coming out of 5,000. So, $5,000 minus $750 is $4,250. Now divide that by 5, or give me a second. Divide that by 5 because there's COD's 5v5 now. That's $850 that we're getting out of a $5,000 payout. Now, granted, like $850. So, like a person like me and you, living paycheck to paycheck is great, but I would rather have that $1,000, or at least closer to that $1,000, because I went, played, and earned that money. I put in the hard work to get that money. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought about this after doing that type of math. After yesterday's episode, because we talked about like amateur org owners taking a lower percentage to kind of get the money back that they pay out, like the am orgs that just pay out like a team pass and stuff like that. So I lost my train of thought. Like, okay, so I would rather have an AM org that I go and represent for, like, take a small percentage to where they get their money back, plus, like, I would say like $100 to $200 extra. That way, that org can have equity to have money for the team. Like that, I'm perfectly okay with. So let's see, 5,000 times 5%. That's $250. That's basically a team pass right there. So let's see, what would this be? Whoops. So, say an AM org pays out $250, and that's all they really pay out for you, and that's basically a team pass right there. Now, if an amateur, or say that said org takes 7% of $5,000, that's $350 coming back their way. Like, we like, you get your team pass, you get the money back that you paid out, and you have a little bit of extra. And the money that you got back for paying out, you can just recycle that money back into another team pass for a future event. And then say we win again and they get that money back, and then they keep getting that same amount back if we keep winning, that's the team pass money they keep getting back plus profit for to build up equity. So I really don't think that Amorg should be asking for such high percentages like that, because again, that's money that I went and played for and I earned, and I want that money. Like, I want at least as much of it as that's mine, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have other thoughts on that or not.
Not really. I mean, we're both kind of on the same side on that, in that sense.
So the kind of last topic that I have, or at least written down, and then after this we can kind of like talk about anything else if there is. So, what are your opinions and thoughts on amateur players that were getting recognition and are either no longer playing or just no longer heard of? Like, for example, for the ones that are no longer playing because like either life caught up with them or something, or whatever happened to where they don't want to compete anymore or can't. Like, one person, or the main person that comes to mind, is Robbie B. He was like a very top AM that was probably one of the closest ones to making it pro, and just out of nowhere, he called it quits. Like, what are your types of thoughts on that, of like just people kind of losing their drive and their passion for playing?
Well, you know, like, people that lose their drive and passion for playing have been the people that have...
Repeat that again. You're. I'm just letting you know when you cut out. I think
Okay.
it just could just be like your.
I was just saying that
the
people that lose their drive and, you know, quit playing competitive are the ones that have been trying for so long and they get no recognition, no anything. So it's kind of just like...
Hold on. Did you say anything after, like, they get no recognition or anything?
No, I did not.
Okay, I just didn't know if you cut out or not.
So, like, obviously, like, there's some nasty fucking people out there that have just tried their absolute all to give it in, and nothing gives, nobody gives recognition. They don't even give it a chance.
They don't give a
or
chance.
Anything like that.
They don't give a chance or what?
Or anything. They don't get a chance for anything.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, why in that mindset you're just like, why am I trying so?
Right, because you're not seeing results.
I have the gun skill. I have everything. I have beat kids that are pro right now, but I'm still sitting here.
Right. It's like you're not seeing results, and it starts to become gut wrenching, and you lose like kind of faith and confidence in yourself of like, Like, I just don't see the point anymore. Are you, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. I was thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just eventually you lose if you're not getting the result or anything. You're automatically gonna start losing drive.
Right.
I've known a lot of people that have.
Now, like, for example, of the ones that aren't getting that recognition and no longer being heard of, like, some players that come to mind is like Jet Li and Parzillion from that old Midnight roster back in early BO4. Like, what happened to those guys? Like, those guys were nasty and insane. Why aren't they being talked about now? You know?
Yeah. I don't know. Everything you just kind of get. A lot of the amateurs just get overshadowed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
don't get me wrong. I'm like if an opportunity comes your way to be pro, take it and move on and move forward with it. Like, all the power to you. Congrats, you made it. But, like, how can you forget about the people that you came up with? You know?
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, that's that ego thing that is just retarded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
because you work so hard with these other people, but then
you just
leave them in the dust. Like, okay, oh, thanks for getting me to where I am. Screw you guys. Like, deuces.
Yeah, and like that's just like that's that that's that ego thing where you're playing with somebody and they get a chance and you don't, and you like don't even help them get a chance either. You're just like, all right, fucking see you later.
Right.
That's that ego bullshit that everybody starts getting.
Mm-hmm. So I remembered about one thing that we talked about yesterday that I would like to get your opinion on. So say COD stayed 4v4 and didn't go to 5v5. Do you think that we would be do you think that people like Simp and Abizi and Celium will be being talked about now?
Can you repeat that question for me?
Yeah, so what I said was, if COD stayed 4v4 instead of 5v5, or like it never went 5v5, do you think that we would be talking about players like Simp and Abizi and Celium if COD stayed 4v4? Like, do you think that we would be talking about them and have their, or just have them as pros now?
Yes and no. I think we would have them as pros at some point. I don't think it would happen fast as it did.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously opening it up to a 5v5 that adds 2 more spots on a team, or 1 more stop. God, I can't talk. 1 more spot
it's all good.
per team.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a stroke.
No, it's okay. I had a really bad one yesterday, bro. You're good. Trust me.
And on top of that, it adds for more slaying. It adds for a better, a more interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't deny the skill talent between the 3 you named.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I think they would be pro, or they would still go pro. I don't know if it would have been as quickly as it happened for them, but I have a good feeling, especially Simp, that he would still be pro.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sorry, but Simp was easily the best player in the game last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his first year. That's his first year being a pro competitive Call of Duty player.
Not even his first year, his first few months.
Yeah, first season, I guess you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, that kid is something else.
Yeah, he's different.
He is something else. So you can't take away the credibility and the skill level of him or the other 2 just because if it was a 4-man roster instead of a 5-man. Because I personally believe that all 3 of them would still more than likely be pro.
I'm not trying to take away their credibility. I'm just saying, like, yes, I agree with you. Yes and no. Like on that point, like would they have been pro eventually? Possibly, but what if if COD stayed 4v4? Like how long do you think it would have taken them to move up? Do you think they would have ended up like most top AMs, like just calling it quits after a certain amount of time?
No. The new kids, the new people that are playing right now that are trying or that are pro right now have been playing forever.
Mm-hmm.
They've still been playing competitively forever. They finally got their chance and they didn't give up. Like Illy. Illy is a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm.
That kid has been playing competitive Call of Duty and he is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally, once he turned 18, got a contract with Dallas Empire as a starting man.
Right.
So like, there's just different breeds of people. There's breeds of people that have been playing forever, and can't seem to get anywhere, and then there's other people that can start getting everywhere or any other places.
Mm-hmm.
In other places, fuck me. But what that comes down to, honestly, what comes down to it is clout.
Yeah.
You gotta have the clout. You gotta know the right people. You gotta shit on the right people when you get a chance, and you have to have that clout.
Mm-hmm. So, Chance, I don't know how long you got, and like, there's other points that I'm remembering that I would like to get your opinions on if you're willing to keep talking about it or keep talking about them. But we're getting into an hour and a half in. I don't know what time you got on your hands, but if you want to keep going, I'm down.
I'm fine. I'm about to do a shot of Jim Beam, but
all right, cool. So, one point that I thought of that we talked about in yesterday's episode that we didn't get to talk about in the first episode is so some of the pros that are in sub spots that like the ones like Embos and Maniac, like Optic, well, no longer Optic, but Optic Maniac, because he's a sub for Florida Mutineers. Like, do you think like those type of people? Do you think that they should be in the sub spots that they're in because they haven't been competing in years? And granted, like I don't know if I ever told you this, but I played against Maniac in World War II GB and I got slapped on. Like, he is nasty because he has the raw talent of being good at FPS games because he was a Halo pro. Like, do you think he should be in a sub spot because he mainly competed in Halo? Like, I'm not saying he's not good enough to be a sub in COD, but because like he's one of those ones that are up there in age and hasn't competed in any esport in years, do you think he should be in a sub spot, literally not doing anything, making 50K, or do you think that spot should be more deserving of a top AM that's been grinding the esport that's he's trying to go to help get his name out there?
It belongs to the person that's still playing and grinding. It doesn't belong to somebody that's literally just sitting there doing nothing, collecting a check.
Mm-hmm.
I personally 100% think that if there's an open sub spot, if there gets an open phase, and you take somebody who has been in the scene and then out of the scene and in the scene and then out of the scene, and over somebody that's been in the scene and has been constantly playing, that's literally like pointless.
And that also kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier on, was the whole inner circle thing. Like Embos, he hasn't competed since like mid AW. Or nah, I can't really say that because he did compete in a little bit of BO3, but like, don't get me wrong, Embos is nasty he's a nasty COD player. He's great in S&D. He's got a great analytical mind, but like, just because he knows people and knows the people that he knows, like, I don't think you should be in a sub spot for that, collecting $50,000 for like, and you may never even get on. Like, you may never even play.
Yeah, and that's like, if you're in a sub spot and you're grinding to get into a starting spot, then that's one thing. But if you're literally in a sub spot and you're not doing shit, you're just sitting there collecting a $50,000 check, like,
Now,
what are you doing?
Now, granted, I get why teams have those type of players in those sub spots, to kind of be fair to that aspect, because they want to have someone they know, they trust, to if they need to step in, they can step in and be in the clutch if they need to. But still, I don't think that just because they know that person, they should be in that spot. Like Embos hasn't competed in a long time, and like, yes, he's good, but like, what if he fails you? Like, you're gonna blame him for that type shit. Like, you're gonna blame him for not coming up in the clutch if someone else isn't stepping up to the plate. Well, they're not really gonna like blame him, but they're gonna be like, well, I guess we shouldn't have put you in. Like, I guarantee there's that one top am or that one amateur player out there that can be in a sub spot and be able to come up in the clutch if they need to, if they were to be put on the spot to play like mid game or something, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a different person. So the team that you're playing against, if you do swap somebody out, which we haven't seen yet, we haven't seen a subs, well, unless it's like a full-on roster change, but we haven't seen like a sub come in mid-game or anything like that. And you're probably never going to see a sub come in, especially if the team like Chicago is popping off like they have been. Like, why break up the band to a point and put somebody else in if things are going well for you?
Yeah, and see, what I personally think is, instead of having sub spots, they need to have a full second team.
Or just more teams.
I think they want to, path to pro. What I think they should do is you have your pro team, and then you have a secondary pro team with top amateurs that they recruited for them.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if on the chance that something happens,
kind of like what
switch.
E United did with the cadet team, which brought up Simp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, the reason why I would the reason that I say an amateur player or a top am should be in a sub spot is because it's somebody different. It's like the team that you're playing against. If you do swap that person out like mid game or something, the other team you're playing against doesn't know how that person plays or anything like that. Like, they don't know what to do against that one person, so that one person can completely throw the other team for a loop. You know?
Yeah. And, like, that's what I think the importance of having that secondary roster, that secondary full roster, that not only that they go and compete. Like, they go and compete there at the LAN events and everything like that in the amateur scene. Because that's what they are. They are top amateurs signed to an amateur pro team. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I agree with you.
That way, that's how you get recognition. That fixes everything. That fixes almost...
You said that fixes what? You cut out again?
I said that fixes just about everything that we had talked about previously with, like, recognition and how to move up and everything. Yeah. Rather than having sub spots with kids that haven't played in, have a full roster team of amateur pro kids.
Mm-hmm.
For a pro team. Like, have, like, you have your Chicago Huntsmen, and then you have, I don't know, fucking Chicago Huntsman V2. Or some bullshit. I don't know, name it whatever you want. But you're giving kids a chance to get a chance. And then all of a sudden, like, one of them starts popping off consistently, and somebody on the team isn't doing as well, switch them out, see how it plays.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, bro. it like that is one thing that should be a thing, and I feel like it would. So one good scenario of that type of situation would be like the Chicago Hunts or the Chicago versus Toronto match, or yeah, the Chicago Toronto match. Like, yes, the like Chicago came up with the clutch and won Game 5, but like they weren't winning their hard points.
Yeah, they got smoked.
They got smoked in the first hard point, but
oh no, that wasn't
no,
them. That was when Chicago played Minnesota.
no, Chicago. No, Chicago
Minnesota
lost the first hard point against Toronto.
Oh, I know they did. I was just saying Minnesota smoked Chicago by 120 points.
No, Toronto did the same thing.
Really? I didn't catch the beginning of it.
Yeah, they did the same thing. Because Chicago lost the first and second. No, they lost both hard points. Or no. They won the first hard point, and then they lost the search and the domination, and then won games 3 and 4, or 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Yeah, 4 and 5. So, but either way, like, if a series is getting that close, and someone's kind of not really performing, like, that's something like, okay, swap him out. Let's see what he can do. But to play devil's advocate and throw a dagger into what we've been saying, just because I'm that type of person. Like, I get why org owners or like the main teams wouldn't kind of do the whole second like team of like amateurs, is because like they might not think that they have the skill or the mindset to do it, because they might get nervous, this and the other. Like, there's a lot of factors, so you can't really just like put it to one specific thing. But like, say like Chicago were to do that and like put in like if they had a team like their sub spots is like a full amateur team, say they swapped everyone out, okay, we'll put in the B team, like that kind of gives the other team a mental advantage of like, okay, these kids probably don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, we have the experience. Like, we can also we can just run through these guys. But like, I get why it's not a thing, but it should be a thing.
Yeah.
Trying to think of because there was another thing that I wanted to bring up. I'm trying to remember it now. It slipped my mind. Give me a second. All right, it's whatever. I'm sure it'll come to me. So kind of back to the point of player or pro players and big name people looking for people to possibly bring up. Like, okay, so never mind. I kind of remember what I wanted to bring up. So, it goes back to what you said about, or said earlier about you like tweeting at people back in the day of like to get recognition. Do you think that most pro players, like, granted I've seen some do, so I can't really say all of them, but most pro players should be like, or so say like say like someone tweets out a clip and tags someone, or say someone posts a clip but they don't tag anyone, they just post it. Do you think like that person that posted a nasty clip should start like tagging in pro players or bigger name people to kind of help get recognition?
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I was reading something that was actually... Yes.
So what I said was, so it kind of like this kind of goes back to what you said about people tweeting out stuff, like how you said you would always tweet out stuff to and tag people to kind of get recognition. Like, do you think people that tweet out nasty clips and stuff like that don't tag people, like, do you think that they should start tagging bigger name people and pros to help get recognition if they tweet out a nasty clip?
Yeah, no, I like, just not even the pros, just like do some weird shit, like upload a nasty clip and fucking at one of the pro teams and just be like, do you have an open roster spot? Like joking around just to get the name out there. Because even if they don't do anything, it shows up on everybody's feed that you added them that are following them, and they'll stop and check the clip out.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, not a lot of people do, but there's also like those type of people that will just straight up ignore you. So, like, but I don't know if I ever told you this either, but back in World War II, I got into a game with Havoc.
Yeah.
And it was a pub hardpoint, and he was live streaming, and like I was like kind of hyping him up in the game because he was going off, and I was like, oh, good shit, this, that, and the other. And then I was like, yo, would you mind possibly checking out my montage? And then like I DM'd it to him on Twitter. And his whole chat was like, oh, he messaged you his montage. He messaged you a montage. He was like, oh, chat, should we watch it on stream? They were like, oh, like, because I was also in chat. They were mostly like, oh, no, he's shit. Don't do that and whatever. And then some people were saying yes. And then he ended up watching it on stream. And like, granted, it was like one of my first ever montages I ever made. So it wasn't like the best or top production or whatever. But I made it. I was happy with it. And I put in what I thought was cool, but just the fact that he watched it on stream, like, was awesome. And
and see, like, that's like
that's something that's something you don't really see is especially doing it on live stream. Granted, they might have like many viewers, but like just doing it on live stream, period, when you have like a couple hundred people watching.
Well, that's like. Remember when we were talking about, like, I would, like, send my videos and stuff like that on Twitter to bigger YouTubers and shit when I would do YouTube videos? And that's, like, those people are still the same people. They don't have an ego. Like, fuck, like I said, like, we like you said when we played Jay Nasty. I fucking chatted at him or whispered to him, and I was like, please tell me you're the real Jay Nasty. And he was like, yeah, bro. And I was fucking lit. Yeah. And he was just like casually holding a conversation with me.
Yeah, you were going ape shit. It was funny.
I was, because it was fucking hilarious. Because you know how many times I've actually played with that guy?
No.
Just under different names. Like I played with that guy so many times.
Yeah. And
it was just fucking hilarious, honestly.
Yeah. So I don't really have any other points or topics that are coming to mind. So do you have any kind of closing thoughts and general ideas of the AM scene as a whole and stuff to kind of close us out?
Not really, but I do have to ask your viewers one question.
Okay.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
Oh god. Stream chat, you guys won't really get that too much. It's like an inside joke thing that we have, and it's way more funny than it sounds, I'm sure. But you don't have any
monster.
You don't have any closing remarks, like, or ideas of like how the AM scene could change for the better or anything like that?
Yeah, it can change a lot for the better if they just make the effort to. I'm hoping the next Call of Duty will favor competitive more.
I think it will.
The people created fucking riots over this shit.
Well, David Vonderhaar has been getting a lot of flack on how kind of bad BO4 was, and I did see a tweet from him not too long ago about him like, I'm tired of getting this hate and stuff like that. I feel like he's gonna come back with a vengeance and kind of make this one a really good one.
I hope so, because I had my hopes up for this game, and the only thing that didn't let me down was
what?
The campaign.
Oh,
The campaign
dude.
was fire.
Oh, dude, the campaign was
absolutely
great.
fucking fire.
The campaign was great. Do you know who Yuri Lowenthal is by any chance, or do you like watch anime at all?
No.
Okay, so there. Do you know the anime Naruto at least? Like, I'm sure you haven't watched
Yeah.
it, but do you know what it is?
I've watched it when
Okay,
I was younger.
so you know the voice actor, or you know Sasuke, the character.
Yeah.
So his voice actor is Yuri Lowenthal. He played, or he was the voice actor of Peter Parker in the Spider-Man game that came out last year. And he also did like a little side character in like the first mission of the campaign of COD. And like the main reason why, like, I love Yuri Lowenthal's voice acting. Like, he's my favorite voice actor. And when I found out he was when I found out he was doing Spider-Man, I was like that's I just wanted to buy the game Spider-Man just because he was doing the voice acting for it. And then when I was playing the campaign, I thought I heard his voice and I wasn't too sure because like you barely hear the character. And I was like, oh like after like hearing it a couple more times, I was like, oh shit, it is Yuri Lowenthal. Like, I just got way more hype for the campaign, and then I knew for sure it was him because his name pops up in the credits. But like, that just made me love the campaign even more. So I also kind of like, that's one thing people do have is high expectations for CODs, and you just get let down because developers think they know what they're doing. Like, granted, they've been making Call of Duties for years, but like, they think that like, what they put out at first is good, or especially if they release it like before it's finished, which is the past 3 CODs have been. Granted, updates come and go, or are always frequent, but like, I feel like developers should take more time making sure the game is ready to come out instead of just like throwing it out there and then just updating it constantly.
The last game that I played that was completely put together perfectly, although I didn't like it, I actually hated it, but it was put together extremely well, was Advanced Warfare. Hated the game. Absolutely hated the fucking game.
Yeah.
But the game was put together very well.
One feature I did like was the paintball feature. That was probably my favorite feature of the whole thing.
See, I played it on PS3 because I was too poor to buy a PS4, so it didn't have the paintball on PS3 for me.
Oh, I had it.
I don't know, whatever, it was like a setting thing.
You know, it was a setting. You had to change it.
I had no fucking clue.
Yeah,
all
it was
I know
a setting.
is I literally played that game for a week. My first game I played, I dropped a double DNA bomb, and then I was like, fuck this game. And then I played Modern Warfare 3. I played Modern Warfare 3 through Black Ops 3.
Wow.
I hated Black Ops 3 too.
Well, hopefully this next COD will be good for competitive and for the AM scene and just good overall.
Yeah.
Chance,
hope to make some changes to the CDL.
Yeah, Chance, thank you for joining me on today's episode. This is a really good episode. Glad you were able to deal with me. Glad you were able to be a guest and appear. Hopefully you would like to come on and do more episodes, hopefully with another person at the same time. Like, you know, like... Can
I get drunk?
Sure, by all means, man.
Can we do a drunk podcast? That would be great.
We'll go ahead and do that. But hopefully
your viewers, I'm an alcoholic, I promise.
So hopefully you're willing to join me on another podcast episode. Hopefully you had a great time. Hopefully you enjoyed doing this one. Thanks again for being today's guest and being on it. Hopefully things change and move forward to the better. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys missed out on today's episode, it will be live on YouTube, or it'll go up on YouTube as soon as I can get it up. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hope you guys liked everything we talked about, and we'll see. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.